Are you a fan of Pringles? Have you ever wondered about the history of this popular snack? You might be surprised to learn that the origins of Pringles can be traced back to the mid-19th century, when William Proctor and James Gamble established Procter and Gamble. Fast forward to 1956, and the potato chip industry was in a competitive state, with customers voicing dissatisfaction with traditional potato chips due to their tendency to become stale quickly, break into small pieces, and contain more air than actual potato chips. In this video, we'll take a closer look at the history of Pringles and how they became the beloved snack that we know today. But be warned, once you learn the truth about the history of Pringles, you may never look at them the same way again. So grab a can of your favorite flavor and let's dive in. There are currently 25 different flavors of Pringles sold in the United States, and even more are sold in other countries. Have you ever considered the number of different flavored snack combinations that are possible? It's an astonishing 318,000. However, the question remains as to whether or not the gentleman sporting a mustache, who appears on the brand's now iconic cardboard container, was the original inventor of Pringles. Why are they referred to as crisps instead of chips, though? There are many people who contributed significant to the development of Pringles, so its history is clouded in a sense of mystery. Although the year 1956 is often cited as a starting point, a more in-depth examination of history brings us all the way back to the year 1837. This is the year William Proctor, a candle maker from England, and James Gamble, a soap maker from Ireland, established their business in Cincinnati, Ohio. Both men immigrated to the United States at some point in their lives, but their unique routes to the city led them to the same destination, permanent residence in the city. James and his family had planned to move to Illinois, but James' daughter became ill and they were forced to stay in Cincinnati. Meanwhile, William's wife passed away while he was on a trip to Cincinnati, which forced him to relocate there permanently. It's interesting to note that these two men shared a familial connection as a result of their marriages to Olivia and Elizabeth Ann Norris, who are sisters. Although the two men began their careers as rivals in the soap and candle industries, they ultimately came to the conclusion that they would be more successful working together. In 1837, they combined their resources and expertise to found the now famous company known as Procter and Gamble. When Pringles was first made available to the public, both Williams and James had already left this world. However, it is safe to say that the creation of P&G owes a great deal to the two founders, and that if it hadn't been for them, Pringles might have never come to existence. Let's take a look at the history of the potato chip business before we delve into the origins of Pringles. At the time, the potato chip industry was in a particular competitive state. Chips were a common and inexpensive snack option in 1956, but customers voiced a number of dissatisfactions with the product. Traditional potato chips in the United States had a structure that caused them to become stale quickly, become greasy, break into small pieces, and contain more air than actual potato chips. Procter and Gamble believed that they had a solution to these problems in their possession. After noticing an increase in customers who were unhappy with potato chips due to the ongoing issues, a group of people made the decision to do something about the situation. They enlisted the assistance of a knowledgeable food technician and chemist by the name of Frederick J. Bauer so that they could reduce the chip's tendency to break easily. Bauer developed the distinctive hyperbolic paraboloid shape of Pringles through arduous experimentation with the assistance of supercomputers. This shape made stacking the chips easier and reduced the amount of grease that spread throughout the bag. Bauer also developed a new method of packaging using vacuum-sealed cardboard tubes with resealable plastic lids in order to further improve the chip's durability. This method prevented oxygen from reaching the chips and kept them fresh for a longer period of time. In addition to this, the cans were stuffed to capacity, which ensured that there was no extra air inside. Nevertheless, in spite of these enhancements, the taste of the chips was inadequate, and Pringles at first experienced a setback. Despite this, the events of the story did not conclude there, and the rest is history. Fred had invested over 2 years of his time and energy into the product, designing incredible packaging for Pringles, but he was having trouble ensuring that they tasted good. Alexander Lipa, a researcher for P&G in the middle of the 1960s, picked up where Fred had left off and successfully added flavor to the chips by using dehydrated potatoes as a base and mixing in other ingredients. Fred had been working on the project since the early 1960s. With the help of a device that resembled a cookie cutter, uniform chips of the same size, shape, and weight were manufactured and sold to the general public for the first time in 1967. The product was initially known as Pringles Newfangled Potato Chips and was only offered for sale in select number of regions. During the 1960s and 1970s, sales of the product were poor due to the product's consistent shape and taste. Many customers found the uniform shape to be boring and missed the fun of searching for chips of varying sizes, which led some people to call for Pringles to be removed from P&G's lineup. Despite the investment that P&G made in creating chips that could be stacked easily, many consumers found the uniform shape to be boring. Following the initial failure of Pringles, Procter and Gamble made an effort to appeal to the general public by introducing new flavors such as barbecue, cheddar cheese, sour cream, and onion. Demand grew steadily, and by the middle of the 1970s, Pringles were being distributed across the entirety of the United States. However, as a result of their success, Pringles faced increased levels of competition from other brands. Competitors resented the fact that Pringles were being referred to as chips because they saw this as evidence that Pringles were eating into their market share. This was due to the fact that Pringles were not made directly from potatoes, but rather from potato flakes, which had been dehydrated, processed, rolled, and fried. They argued that calling them chips were misleading because they contained less than 50% potato. In 1975, in response to the continuously growing number of complaints, the FDA took action. They came to the conclusion that the only way Pringles could be considered chips was if P&G included a disclaimer on the packaging stating that the snacks were made from dehydrated potatoes. P&G was hesitant to do so, and instead decided to rebrand its product with a new name. Following this, Pringles began to acknowledge and celebrate the distinctive qualities of its products by developing Pringle Crisps. After the problem was resolved, Procter and Gamble shifted their attention to working on increasing the demand for chips. They were able to accomplish this by making changes to the flavor and launching the successful Fever of the Flavor advertising campaign for Pringles in 1989. This campaign even featured the pre-fame version of Brad Pitt. These efforts paid off as Pringles gradually became P&G's most profitable brand by the late 1990s, bringing in more than $1 billion in sales during that time. The rise in popularity of Pringles in the United States led to the brand's expansion into new markets around the world. At the same time, the company introduced flavors that were both conventional and out of the ordinary, such as seaweed, prawn cocktail, blueberry, and hazelnut. Pringles are one of the most well-known and well-loved brands of snacks all over the world, and they are sold in more than 140 countries today. The success of the brand even prompted the product's creator, Fred Bauer, to request that his ashes be entered into a can of Pringles with the original flavor. His family honored his request after Fred's death in 2008 and buried his ashes in the can. Pringles is a successful company that is currently owned by Kellogg. It's often jokingly referred to as the chip company that doesn't shortchange its customers with air-filled bags, due to the fact that it does not fill its bags with air. The crunchy, saddle-shaped chips continue to be a popular snack that is enjoyed by many people all over the world. The bushy mustache that the Pringles man sports has been a defining characteristic of all of his incarnations over the course of his long and illustrious career as one of the most recognizable brand mascots in the entire world. Who exactly should get credit for inventing Pringles is a question that has recently been raised. While Fred Bauer was responsible for the design of the chips and the packaging, Alexander Lipa was responsible for improving the flavor of the chips 10 years later. Both William and James Gamble were hired by Procter and Gamble, which was established in 1837 by William Procter and James Gamble. Who in the light of all of this information is the person who should really be credited with inventing Pringles? This is a story of how Pringles, despite not being an instant success, eventually became a well-liked snack food thanks to a combination of successful experimentation and advertising. They were able to successfully address the challenges that their rivals were encountering. And to this day, people all over the world admire them for successfully delivering chips that did not have a significant amount of space between each chip. And that's the history of Pringles, folks. From its humble beginnings as an attempt to solve the problems with traditional potato chips to becoming one of the most popular snack brands in the world, Pringles has come a long way. We've learned about the contributions of Procter and Gamble's founders, the innovative packaging developed by Frederick J. Bauer, and the addition of delicious flavors by researcher Alexander Lipa. So the next time you're munching on a can of Pringles, take a moment to appreciate the ingenuity that went into creating these stackable snacks. And if you're feeling adventurous, try experimenting with different flavor combinations and see if you can come up with a new favorite. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.